and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Klur.
Here.
Councilmember Collings. Councilmember Stackfleth.
Here.
Councilmember Globman.
Here.
Mayor Redmond.
Here. All right, we will report on closed session, which did not happen. Moving into public comment. Did it? I was not there, never mind. Apparently, we'll get a report on the closed session.
My bad. Oh, okay.
Closed session shouldn't be there, right?
Right, that's left.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to public comment with the general audience. Anybody who wants to speak on anything that is not on the, on the agenda? Anybody wants to say anything to say? Come on up. Name and address, 3 minutes.
Yeah, Marcola. You need my address?
Yeah, name and address.
1622 Christian Way, Mount Shasta. I've never been to a city council meeting before, but I was at Deadwood on March 22nd, and I just saw this elderly woman, sweet grandma. She fell right in front of Paige's, and I have some pictures of what she tripped over, and it looked like her cane got stuck on this part of the sidewalk. It looks like there's some screws missing from this particular part. I don't know if you guys want to look at it, or...
Yeah, you can pass it around to us.
Okay.
You just hand it out to Jeff there.
And yeah, I just wanted to bring that to the attention. I just know a lot of elderly people are in town, and they're always in and out of Pages, and it just seems like, it could have easy fix, but her cane, you can see where it got stuck, and she was bleeding from the head. She had a chunk out of her eye. There was blood everywhere. It was really bad, and I just wanted to bring it up to you guys. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. I don't know if she has any family here. I try to get information. I don't know what happened with the hospital bill, or if she's, I don't know. So that's why I'm here for that. And then someone else wanted me to bring up something else regarding a dog park. So I don't know if I say that now or sit back down.
You can while you've got what's left of your 3 minutes left. You can-
Okay. I guess there's an oak tree that's overgrowing in the dog park, and that is, I'm finding out, very toxic to dogs, and there's someone that's willing to maintain it and cut it for free, and he wants to be more involved in that, and I guess had offered before, but someone at the Parks and Recs didn't know what they could allow, but he is willing to cut down the oak tree and the branches because it's a lot, and I didn't know, but it's apparently really toxic to dogs, and I'm just passing that message along from the dog park community. I'm done. Okay.
Thank you, Julia. Anybody else in the audience with anything to say that's not on the agenda? Come on up, name and address, please.
Okay, I'm Jen Rogar, and I live at 1005 McLeod Avenue. Got here just in time to talk. I'm supporting the same thing. I was there, I saw the lady fall, blood all over the place, smashed her head in, and the response was terrific. They came and rescued her, the fire department, the police. But I just wonder if there was a report done. It was, about her. The grate's still sticking up, and it's kind of dangerous. But also on McLeod, we have cracked sidewalks. You know about that. So this town should be a town where we can walk. We should have a really great walking score, and you can't, and there's a lot of older people, and so, I don't know if there's enough money or what the problem is, an extra tax or something, to fix our neighborhoods like McLeod. I don't know what old McLeod looks like, but McLeod could really be improved, and people don't walk because they got to walk on the street, and then you got the cars zooming, which makes it kind of, dangerous. That's another whole issue. And then the water, We shouldn't have chlorinated water. So whatever, we came up here to have clean, fresh water. So that last winter, that was pretty obnoxious to me. I turned on my sink, and every time I turned on the sink, it was just, blowing out bleach, and I thought that was nuts. But anyway, also I sing around town, and anytime you guys want to use my time, you can, because it's over at Deadwood, and he's a community guy. And if you want to, use some of my mic time, I have 3 hours Saturday. You're welcome to. Anytime. Because I also like to bring a teen challenge, help support Teen Challenge USA. I don't know if you've heard about that. They're trying to maybe come in here. And it's a very successful program around the country. I support it financially. Every penny I make when I sing, I give to them. And they're up in Wairika if you want to go up and check them out and see what they're like. But they're healing people.
Can you leave your information?
Mine?
Yeah, your contact information.
Oh, yeah. It's Jen Rogar at Gmail, JENNROGAR at Gmail. You want any other?
I don't know if you want to share your phone number.
Okay,
on record,
why
but
not?
If you write it, if you write it down, I can take it with too.
Yeah, 916 for everybody. 856-6305. You all know where I live now. And no, I really support Teen Challenge. It's fantastic. It works. And so if I can help bring that here, a women's center, I know they're thinking about bringing a women's center, to help addicts
Yeah.
and homelessness too. And anyway, I don't want to go on and on.
Yeah, thanks for offering.
Okay, yeah, that's why I sing, to help people. Have fun.
Thank you, Jen.
That's like a Mr. Rogers kind of thing over there. That means stop?
Works on 5-year-olds
Okay.
too.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to say anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Come on up. Yeah, come on up. Name and address, please.
My name's William Maces. I live at 813 Carmen in Mount Shasta here. I hope this is the right forum for addressing this. I was told that we're going to discontinue the EMS in the evening time from like 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. Is that correct?
It's not.
It's not. Were we going to discontinue that benefit, or?
I don't know where you heard it from, but it's never been discussed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I was here, because I must have erroneous information. However, if you do consider it, reconsider it, please. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. That what now?
There's a rumor going around that we're going to shut down like EMS services from like, I had heard 8 p.m. to
Good
6
Lord.
p.m.
Don't believe the internet. Good Lord. Anybody else in the audience wish to say anything that's not on tonight's agenda? No, seeing none, we will shut it down and come back. Turn it over to council and staff comments, and Todd, you always start it off.
Okay. Starting with the old hospital, that long saga, the MLS listing is up for it, and from my understanding from our attorney, the deadline passed where the owner could contest giving the property up, because essentially he still owns it even though it's in a receiver's hands. So it's up. Look for it if you're interested in looking at putting it in a bid to develop it. So Danco Affordable Housing, the Mountain Townhomes, has been taking up a bunch of time. It's moving at a breakneck speed. They are trying to close on the property on June 6th. There's a lot of things that need to come together. Jeff's got some additional information on it when it's his turn. And, one of the things I was asked by Councilman Collins is, where does somebody that wants one of these units, where do they go? And Danco, the company, they're not taking any of that information yet, but they will as soon as they start construction. But if anybody is interested, please submit your name and your information to me, and I'll make sure I keep a running list, and I will get that over to them as soon as we start moving on that project. And we're looking to break ground this summer.
Sorry, what's the estimated timetable for that?
I haven't seen the actual construction timeline. I would imagine it would out end 2 years, with, optimum construction season in the 2 years. Then we have a structural engineer visiting the library next Friday, not this Friday coming up, the Friday after, I believe it's the 9th. They are going to be taking samples for the structural engineer, and at that same time, Noel and Tam, the architects that are putting together the design package for the expansion of the library, will be going over some, final details with the Library Expansion Committee and others, and then going over to the library itself to talk to the, users and, and staff, friends of the library, to make sure that they understand how things are going to work and if there are any other kind of fine level tweaks. But the expansion and redesign of the library is moving forward. And then finally, update on the landing, kind of taking a new tack. I've mentioned here before that the two folks that have the property tied up for development, we have, a sort of weak agreement with them that they've got a year to put a development plan together and a finance plan. Then they're supposed to execute on that in a year. That's done in May, and I haven't heard from him in a week and a half, despite reaching out to him. One of the things that we've run into, though, is the Surplus Land Act doesn't allow us to enter into any kind of agreement, so that original agreement is in effect null and void. Doesn't mean they couldn't bring a claim, but I'm keeping them in the loop, and I've been had a couple conversations with K2 Development, who does want the site. They can't move until we get through the Surplus Land Act, but they want to take it on. So I'm hoping that, there isn't any kind of dispute over this. I'm going to keep Pinsino in the loop, and I'll let the two compete once the Surplus Land Act is complete. But so taking a different approach, see if we can get this back on track. That's what I've got.
Jeff, will swing it over into you about Danco.
Yeah, sure, real quick, just a quick addition. We'll be updating you. There's a lot of moving parts quickly, so I think probably at least once a month, we'll update you on the status of the project. We expect to have a very full and complete building permit set coming in shortly, hopefully in the next 30, 60 days. As we get closer to that date, we're sharpening focus on a lot of things. Most recently has been ownership of the recently vacated by you all 2 months ago, Field Street. That is now part of the project, but separate ownership. We still own it, and we're going to seek you all coming up next month the deeding of that quitclaim deed effectively to the Danco folks, so they can use that under common ownership to tighten up their finance package as we get close to closure. Just a heads up, it's coming your way.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay. Melissa, anything before you? Okay. Chief?
Just real quick, a reminder to the citizens and stuff, we had our first vegetation fire start right there on North Mount Shasta Boulevard on the west side with a little bit of wind on it. We were able to get on it real fast. But this is the time now, I know with the winter and the still not letting go and the rain, we need to be thinking about getting signed up for readysiscu.gov. You can do that either by going to readysiscu.gov or going to the Mount Shasta City website. Get yourself signed up so you're getting the alerts and getting ready for the fire season so that you're kept in the loop with that.
Yes, fire roulette has started. Ken, anything with you? Okay. Counselors?
Yeah, so clarify the situation with the library, because I was hoping to disband that committee since it's been well over a year, right? That we've been having that ad hoc committee, and we're at the point now where a final plan by Nolan Tam is being put together. Why are we going to have to continue with that expansion committee? What's going on?
We don't. This is just an opportunity for Noel and Tam to come back and show the details of what they.
So maybe one more meeting?
Yeah.
So you don't have a problem with that, right? Okay, so I'll get back to, I don't know that we have to have a consent agenda item that says, okay, the ad hoc committee for the expansion, library expansion is hereby terminated. I don't know that we have to do that. I don't think we do. John, you remember anything like that? They just kind of, the ad hoc committees just kind of end when we say it's.
Yeah, that's the point of the ad hoc, is to say, you know.
It's very informal, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have one more to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
Hopefully just
All right.
one more. Just one more.
Well, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to talk about the
Don't
same
worry,
thing
it'll start
later
over-
on about.
It'll start over again in 2 years, don't worry.
Tom's, yeah, right. So this thing you gave us from Civitas regarding our not sending money, not sending our Discover Siskiyou money to.
That might have been attached to the bottom of the.
Yeah, anyhow, this is recommended that, this basically says we shouldn't do that. Yeah. So do we have to reverse what we decided on?
No.
Formally?
No.
Because they also did buy new machines and they're going to be plowing. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Yeah. Yeah, the county, new machine, not used, I assume. Correct. It's new, right? And so it's not an issue anymore.
And there's a
Right.
there's
And
a
so
group
do
that's.
we have to do a
John, when
reversal
we
on
did that
this?
5-0 vote with all this and
Yeah.
the flack we've gotten since, Todd made it very clear what we're doing, what we were voting on, 5-0, we could not do. We just did it
Yeah,
anyways out of our upsetness with the county.
I do think that just as a show of good faith, as
We should do a reversal?
I do think we should.
So I'll make an, you'll second me on that at the future agenda items?
And
Just because they have, Discover Siskiyou has good partners, and I think.
Okay, because that's really who we're talking about more than the county at that point. And we had
Yeah, they came here.
Tanya here, who was kind of upset.
yeah,
So,
Yeah, a month ago, yeah.
did you? Okay, good, that's good.
I think she'd be happy, and she's
If we did a
been
reversal?
and
Okay, so
they've
that'll
been
be a-
they've been great
I'll
partners.
talk about that at future agenda item time.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. With this letter we got from the Mount Shasta Fire Protection Districts seeking a meeting with all of us counselors and themselves, how do we go about setting that up, since it's not really an agenda item?
I would suggest, because it is going to be a one-issue meeting and probably long, is that we schedule a special, and we'll reach out to when you guys have a date that you have in mind, and we'll reach out to the district and Bob, and it might be best to have it after the 9th. That's when I sit down and we walk through the MOU, and he's going to float a couple ideas, and then we might be closer to a resolution. But it'd be good to have that conversation after I've got more background.
Okay. Any other comments? No? All right, close that down, move on to the consent agenda. City manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes for April 14th, 2025 regular meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable April 10th of 25, total gross payroll, and taxes for the periods ending April 15th, 25, and April 17th, 25. C, the monthly investment report, and do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through C by title only.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, none. All right, moving on to number 8, closing out of Fund 75. And Melissa, you have the floor.
Thank you. Chief and I have been going through the budget diligently, obviously, the last month or so. He's done an amazing job with figuring out how to do with a little bit less. And so part of that was we looked at the 3 different funds that he has funding going through, which is the general fund, the COPS fund, which is an allocation that comes annually, and then the Fund 75, which is sort of a community safety enhancement, a little bit of a variety of different funds, mostly the K-9 Association. Over the last couple of years, there have been more expenditures than revenue that's come into that fund, and I think we've agreed that we can manage that more closely in the 2 funds. If so, we would like to get rid of the Fund 75 that just sort of added a complexity to managing the K-9 program. So if you could approve that, we'll close that out this year, and we'll track all of the K-9 expenses and revenues in the COPS and Police General Fund.
Any questions?
Seems pretty straightforward. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't change any sort of.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. If anybody wishes to speak for 3 minutes on this. Go ahead, come on up. You got, you, huh? Can you turn it off? Oh. I can't hear. Boss man's on it for you, don't you worry. All right. All right, we will close the public comment, bring it back to council. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the closing out of Fund 75.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right, moving on to agenda number 9. Resolution in support of seeking grants for the daylighting of Castle Creek. And Todd, you have the floor.
Okay. The daylighting of Castle Creek, we've been talking about for a couple years, I'm sure probably longer than, even I was here. We had a daylighting ad hoc meeting on April 7th, and Tom Hesseldens was kind enough to walk through design proposals and cost estimates and, potential, an approach and potential grant sources. And he's here to say a few words tonight, but essentially what we're looking for is, if council agrees, is we're trying to get a unanimous resolution in support of seeking grants or not seeking it right now. As if we don't have a unanimous resolution, there's a good chance we won't be competitive. But Tom, do you want to go through a little bit of a, just a kind of a highlight of the design and what you found in the cost estimate?
Yes, hi everybody. This is similar to an approach we took in Wairika, which succeeded in getting a $5 million grant for the Greenway project in Wairika. And it's important to keep in mind that what's being asked of you now is not approval of the project. We have to go through CEQA, and to pay for CEQA, we need grant funding. The main approach that we wanted to take from a funding point of view was for this project not to cost the city anything, but to seek grant funding to pay for everything associated with the project, including maintenance, or at least getting maintenance off the ground. In Wairika, the $5 million grant that we got actually included establishing an endowment fund for maintenance. And that was a state grant. One of the reasons for seeking a resolution tonight is that the voters passed Proposition 4 last November. The various state agencies are now divvying up that money to figure out which agency will have how much money to give away through a competitive grant process. So that's going to be one of the primary sources for this project. And in supporting the resolution now, it'll initiate the grant writing process, and then if we get the grant funding, one of the first things we'll do is initiate CEQA. So the community will have ample opportunity to give input. I've already worked up a number of alternatives in CEQA that would make sense. For example, in front of Ace Hardware, parking is a highly sensitive issue. We can phase implementation where we daylight the creek and have an 8-foot wide multi-use trail along it, but retain one-way traffic on each side of the creek and retain some parking on each side of the creek. We could get rid of that parking at a future date at such time that circumstances are better. But in taking that kind of an approach, we can actually, depending on the alternative, either add a net number of 4 parking spaces in that vicinity, or we would lose only 2, depending on, there's 2 different strategies there. But both of those strategies take advantage of the Brownell property that council recently approved and the city purchased. Other alternatives under CEQA would be how much to implement now on other blocks. There's support up there at Sisson Meadow itself. The Land Trust is really on board with this and wanting to improve the boardwalks and other facilities at the meadow, deepen the pond, for example. And then the alley that goes through at an angle could be converted to a multi-use trail. That block of Castle Street leading up to the alley, Chuck Ryan is very much in favor of privatizing the road itself into a shared driveway, but then having the public trail and the daylighted creek all coming through there. So that would clean up that block. The next block down, there's some parking controversy associated with that, and there's one key private property that we haven't been able to get a response from the landowner yet, so that might well get deferred. ACE would be a great thing to include in a first phase in some manner to attract grant money. The next block down past Napa, some parking issues, some potential solutions. We need to work with landowners there. So the best way I'm suggesting to structure CEQA is what we did in Wairika, where we did a programmatic EIR for the whole vision. Up there it was 4.5 miles of Greenway. Here it's just 6 blocks of Castle Street. And then have a specific component in the EIR for whatever the preferred alternative ends up being. And that preferred alternative will be an outgrowth of public interaction and what we end up wanting to move forward with. But we have to have some idea of that in the grant writing for construction. So we want to include enough money in the grant proposal to construct what we realistically think would go through the process and we'd be ready to build. So the grant would also cover the regulatory permits. It would cover the civil engineering, the hydrology study. There's a lot of facets of this that need to be pinned down before it actually gets built. So that's what's going on, and so all we're asking tonight is that resolution to show support for the concept. And just as one historical note, I was involved, well, I've been involved with a lot of projects over the years, but at the Mill Pond Park project on the landing, Caltrans had invited the city to apply for a grant back in the early 1990s. So I worked with, actually Pacific Power was a partner on it. It was a really interesting group. But we came to city council and they voted 3-2 to support it. Caltrans said, that's not good enough. We're not going to fund it. So that was a firsthand experience of where getting less than a unanimous vote can backfire and you won't get the grant funding. Anyone have any questions?
Chair? Will Jeffrey's absence affect the 5-0 vote? Or will a 4?
Oh, sorry. Good point. I don't think so. I think the 3-2 vote, where it was actually 2 people voting against it, sent a pretty strong message to Caltrans. Totally separate project, separate pot of money, but just conceptually, I would think that a 4-0 vote would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have to work with what you have.
And then to add on, Councilmember Stackfleth and I are on that ad hoc committee, and originally when it was conceived, we paired it with the one-way street concept, and we as a group decided to focus on the daylighting of Castle Street first. and circle back to the one-way street as a possibility after we put all of our energy into this, namely because they're two different funding sources, so to run them concurrently can get a little troublesome. So that's why you're only seeing the Castle Street tonight.
We had also done some initial public outreach, and the response to the couplet was mixed, but the response to the Greenway was fairly strong. So that was another reason for just doing the Greenway first by itself. Also, there's some more research to be done on the couplet. For example, talking to Ashland, to the business people in the city up there, and say, how do you feel about it now after having it for so many years? Yeah.
Any other questions for Tom? Good.
Is this, so I know you said that, I understand that we're not.
Can you use the mic?
Sorry. So I understand that you're not seeking approval of the overall project at the moment. You're just seeking approval to go and look into grant funding at the moment. Is this an appropriate time to like ask questions about the project itself, or should we kind of contain it to things about seeking grant funding?
Kind of, yeah.
What?
I think that's all we're here for right now, is just to, because like you said, the money's just to even go to CEQA, and then we're gonna have more questions on that anyways. So.
I guess my question then is there any cost associated to the city with seeking grant funding, like paying staff time, paying you to do
The city has paid me for part of my work, and I've donated part of my work. And I'm very sensitive to the city's budget situation right now. So Todd and I have just been kind of orchestrating how much is giveaway and how much is billable. Okay. But in terms of how much time and effort that would go into the grant writing, since I've done so much work already, it's really pinned down. And it's just a matter of taking that information and custom tailoring it to what they're asking for a specific grant.
And we, mentioned working together on that grant on our own time on the weekends. So yeah, we'll get it done.
What's a weekend?
Yeah. John, any questions? Okay, we'll open up to public comment then. If anybody in the audience wishes to come on up, name and address, please.
Okay, so, piggybacking on that.
Shasta Creek Greenway, there's a long story behind it.
But I'm just going to add that the parking issue would be alleviated greatly if you fix the sidewalks. And make it part of it, because if people can walk down, you don't have locals filling up the parking spots. They're going to walk. Wouldn't it be great to have a village where people walk down a mile? It's not too impossible. So in all the neighborhoods, if we had safe sidewalks and greenways, and we'd be like a model city. So I think this is a great idea. Just more sidewalks in the neighborhoods. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. Anybody else in the audience right now? All right, seeing nobody.
I've been asked to read a statement on behalf of Joanna Altacher.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Walking and chewing gum here. Dear City Council, City staff, and members of the community, since my public comment at the initial council meeting some months ago on the Castle Street daylighting by the Ace parking lot, I have given this project a lot of thought. Here are some of those thoughts. I like wetlands and green space. However, how about we try to keep what is already existing wetland and green space and not try to convert concrete into wetland, free versus high costs? What benefit is there to city revenue of the community from this project? From the discussions heard, it will have a negative impact on business revenue, city tax revenue, parking space losses, current and future budget impacts, not to mention all the money already spent on this project when the city has been in or near budget deficit for the last several years. What about the potential safety and liability issues associated with the creek in a commerce area? How will this project benefit the community? The Ace lot view to mountain is spotty with the trees. This project also has expanded to more than just the Ace parking lot, where the idea was piloted to council. We already have a park area downtown that is very rarely utilized as it is, Parker Plaza. Why do we think a second park will be successful? At prior meeting, I asked how we can afford such a non-essential project with our budget deficits, and I suggested a compromise. The alternative solution I envision would be adding a very large fountain with some prominent boulders and greenery. But rather than adding that to the Ace parking lot, why not add this in Parker Plaza and make that a more complete experience? There is a clear view to Mount Shasta there. One public speaker at this initial council meeting said that, quote, back in my day, everyone worked really hard to get this water into pipes, and now we are undoing this. The current water pipes do their job. We need consistent city priorities. Bill, owner of Ace Hardware, came to a recent council meeting and stated that he was not in favor of this project. Castle Creek, behind Rite Aid, see picture below, has less water than the waters of the U.S. Stream and headwaters of the Sacramento River running past my home. Let's work on saving existing, active, undisturbed wetland area. This wetland has no city cost to maintain. Why are we spending money to create water features we already have naturally occurring? We have a world-renowned mountain in our backyard. How will a small 2-foot wide creek surrounded by concrete and development add to what we already have naturally occurring? After our most recent council meeting 2 weeks ago, the city discussed its dire budget deficits. Why is the city willing to take on more costs, further putting our city into debt? This project will have future maintenance costs as well that no one has mentioned. The city should spend money on basics the city currently needs. For example, Zoom hybrid meetings were cut this year due to the budget deficit. Fixing potholes and sidewalks that everyone benefits from, or offer snow plowing of mailbox access and sidewalks. Let's spend budget dollars on the basics before non-essential products. I appreciate the work. That's time.
Any other emails sat in, or? No? Okay. We will close public comment, bring it back to council. Any more questions, or do we have a motion?
Rachel, what's the CCR number for the resolution?
15.
I move to approve Resolution CCR-25-15, a resolution for the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta in support of seeking grant funds in support of daylighting Castle Creek.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? None? There's your 4-0, Tom. Thank you. No worries. Have a good night. All right, moving on to number 10, the local transportation fund claim. And Melissa Dodd has the floor again.
Thank you. This is an annual request that comes for us to be able to claim our apportionment for the local transportation funds, part of which is overseen by the Local Transportation Commission and the funding of the stage bus service. The balance of that is given to us for our roads funds. So we just need to approve this, get this resolution done, and then annually we'll get this funding.
Okay. Any questions, councilors? All right, seeing none, open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to speak on this? All right, seeing none, we'll close it. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve Resolution CCR-25-16. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta claiming the city's apportionment of local transportation funds in the amount of $139,825, of which $43,819 is claimed for streets and roads purposes, and the balance of $96,006 is to be used for the unmet public transit needs, and authorizing the mayor to execute the claim.
Second.
Second, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? None? All right. Moving along, let me get back to my page, sorry, everybody. Where'd it go? Here we go, okay, moving on, number 11, approval of contract with WBC Campaigns for the ballot measure study. Todd, you have the floor on this one?
Okay, I believe it was a council meeting back in late February. It was approved that we would be seeking qualified statistical research firms to look at, conducting focus group work with the business community and members of the public to find out what their most important needs are in terms of city services, do what's called sensitivity testing and determining, what the optimum rate is for a proposed sales tax measure, and then building support out in the community to pass that measure. And, we sent that RFP out and to 5 firms, WBC Campaigns, FMV Research, Team Civics, the Lou Edwards Group, and EMC Research. We received responses back from EMC and from WBC Campaigns. EMC's proposal was for $59,000. WBC Campaigns was for $45,000, and WBC's proposal actually provided more services. Well, both had great packages they put together and a list of references and where they've been successful with tax measures. WBC Campaigns actually had more examples of success in smaller communities of 7,000 or, and some less. And, they've got the expertise and a long track record of doing well. And, nobody wants to spend money at a time like this, but when we've had a couple failed measures, the last thing we want to do is go out and float another measure and have that not pass. So this is our best chance of doing that.
Thank you, Todd. Questions, councilors? All right, none. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the timeline on their work? Are we talking about putting something on a ballot for like this fall, or like what's the timeline for the? No, there's nothing. There isn't.
Yeah, that was wrong. It's not March next year. It's
June?
primaries in June.
Of 2026.
Right, the general's the way out.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would nail down a proposed timeline as part of, putting the scope of work together. And, pretty easy guy to work with, knows his stuff. It's kind of set it.
Yeah, you've had positive words about him when we've talked about this.
Yeah.
The pre-agenda. So, any other questions? All right, we'll have it up to public comment. Anybody in the audience wish to comment?
I've been asked to read a statement on behalf of Johanna Altorfer.
Okay.
I would like to ask the council to vote no on spending more money. If the city wants to put the measure on the ballot, they do not need to spend more funds the city does not have and cause the city to further go into debt. The voters spoke during the last election and voted this down. Also, from what I have heard from prior council meetings, this is just another attempt to, quote, sneak it past the voters during an election where not many voters historically turn out for. This does not even feel morally correct. I urge the council to vote no to this Agenda 11 contract with WBC Campaigns for ballot measure study. Thank you for your consideration.
Joanna, anybody in the audience? No? All right, we'll close public comment, bring it back to council. We have a motion or comments?
Do you have a comment?
I was just gonna, yeah.
Please.
I was just gonna say, I'm in favor of this. I'm not, like, I'm well aware of what our city's going through. We don't have that much, but like, we need this tax measure to pass in order to keep going. And if it fails, then this 45,000 is the drop in the bucket compared to what we have to cut anyway. So doing everything we can to give ourselves the best chance of success at having this pass, I think it's well worth it.
And I personally would say that we're not trying to sneak this by the voters when we're literally bringing it to them a year and a half ahead of time from the next election possibly, to even just get input on what they're cool with before we even formally put anything out there after, we get the research on it. So we're not trying to sneak one by when we're literally talking about it here. So, yeah, do we have a motion? Or?
Yeah, the reality is we need to increase revenues somehow. So inflation and other things are making expenses go up, and our revenues are not matching those expenses. So this is needed for our city. So I will move to approve a contract with WBC Campaigns in support of passing a tax measure for $45,000.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right. Moving on to number 12. Approval of contract with Shasta Services, Inc., DBA Timberworks for the Water Distribution System Improvements Project. And Ken Kellogg, you have the floor.
Mayor and City Council, on April 17th, the city conducted a bid opening for the Water Distribution Systems Improvement Project. 5 bids were received. The lowest qualified base bid was from Shasta Services, AKA Timberworks. Pace Engineering and city staff performed a review of the bid package and found it acceptable, meeting or exceeding all requirements stated in the RFP. Staff recommends that the council approve a contract with Shasta Services for the water distribution system improvement projects with contingencies A and B included for a total of $4,183,238, contingent upon funding from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. And that number is actually lower than what our grant was
The $4
allocated.
million? No,
Yeah.
no. Okay. That's good. Good to hear. All right, any questions?
Yeah, I think it would be good for the general public, those that care, to explain what this, where this project is located. I think I know where it is.
It's basically in the southeast quadrant of the city, bounded by Washington Drive on the east and McLeod, or Mount Shasta Avenue on the west, north of Old McLeod and south of McLeod.
South of Orem.
South, well,
They
yes.
said, they told us Orem,
Yeah,
remember? It's a big project,
it is.
and I'm surprised.
It will replace a lot of aging pipe that is we are constantly patching leaks on. It will upgrade and upsize other sections of pipe. It will replace some badly. It will add some valves. It will replace some valves. It will delete some that we don't need. It will make the system more effective. It will help with our pressure distribution. There's a lot of pluses to it.
Okay, so this is just a little bit more expensive than the one Cedar Pine Street project we did a couple of years ago. That was in the $3 million range. And this seems to be a lot more linear feet and pipe. Are they not, is this project not literally replacing all the pipes in that area?
It's not replacing all the pipes.
Okay, so that would explain why it's not
And
so much more.
admittedly, the market's pretty darn good for going out for bids right now.
Oh, so contractors are coming in lower?
They're sharpening their pencils.
You good?
Yeah, question for you, Ken. It says here, the total cost and then contingent upon funding from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Yes.
Is that a sure thing that we get that, or is that actually up in the air?
No, it's a sure thing. It's not an overnight thing. I think it's like, I was talking to Pace, we're 60 days. 30 days super fast, 60 days probably more like it, but
This is not a situation where we're going out and seeking the funding. We know.
no, it's there. It's a formality. But
Any questions? No? All right. We'll open it up to public comment. If anybody would like to come on up, say your name and address. 3 minutes.
It sounds like you're addressing the water issue quality. So if it has to do with fixing pipes or whatever happened last winter, which was shocking. I've been here since 2020. Not really long, but it was like, you know, bleach smelling water coming out. So I don't know if this is going to fix that, but I'm in support of rusty pipes. fixing-
unfortunately, it won't fix that. That was an issue up at the Springs.
Okay, well, rusty pipes are bad too. So
Yes, they are.
I'll just jump back up when we do talk about the bleachy water. Yeah, but this is great.
Thank you, Jen. Anybody else in the audience? The 3 people say no. Okay. Do we have any comments or a motion?
I'll move to approve a contract with Shasta Services, Inc., DBA Timberworks, for the Water Distribution System Improvements Project with contingencies A and B for a total cost of $4,183,238 contingent upon funding from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right, so council, any outside meetings to report? Collier Group? Yes.
Okay, so Collier Group, pretty uneventful, except that, all right, for one, on a positive note, we actually had the meeting at the Interpretive Center in north of Wairika, and the interpretive walk that's kind of along the river, the Klamath River, is complete, so that's great. We received a grant for that, and that helped get that project completed. On the negative side, the balance in the checking account's down to $6,000+ trend line, as far as I'm concerned, trend line is really bad in that regard, heading towards zero. And the implications of that are to be discussed later, so I will keep you posted. Do you want to handle the meeting with Melissa? Do you want to start that? Okay, so this is going to be, that's it for the Collier Group, and then Tessa's going to talk about the other meeting that we went to.
Sure. We had an Audit and Finance Committee meeting where we discussed a number of things. One is that Springbrook is looking better, and we're getting in the groove with that software. Please interrupt me if I misrepresent anything. We reviewed our long-term debt. That was a request from Councilmember Stackfleth. We reviewed the budget adjustments, which will be brought back to council at our next council meeting, correct? And we decided not to refinance our PERS liability at the moment, because in doing so, we would have to pay more out of pocket on the short end to get the benefit in the long end, and we can't afford that right now. So is that pretty much it?
That's good. Now, I'll just tell people what the number is.
Okay.
So instead of being like the Collier Center where we're heading to zero really fast, the improvement in the projected fund balance at the end of 26, so that would be June 30th of 26. We are talking about our next fiscal year, okay? Is that we have a reserve that is equal to about 14% of our expenditures. So we were discussing in the recently that we were down around potentially being in the 6 or 7% range. So it's a projected improvement, but we'll go over that when we have a meeting agenda on that item.
And just as a head, or I don't know, a good benchmark for a healthy general fund is about 20% reserve. So you can see that we're dipping, yeah, but not catastrophic as it was.
Not single digits.
Yeah.
Better than 6. I also attended, I'm part of the Dignity Health Mercy Mount Shasta Advisory Board. I attended a meeting last week. Their numbers are looking much better. They had the partnership, the Medi-Cal partnership deal wasn't going through, so they were losing a lot of patients from that, but they came to an agreement, so reestablishing care is happening. On the downside of things, we lost our OBGYN, so they are looking for someone to replace her.
Real quick, back to the audit committee. So Melissa introduced the concept to our innkeepers of paying their transient occupancy tax monthly. I'm not sure if we have to approve that at all. I don't think we do. But I just want to let people know that that is a change that Tessa and I thought was appropriate and would help our situation as far as understanding how our cash flow is. And did you go through with that? You actually sent this out, right?
And that does need to come from the city clerk. So I will be working on scheduling a meeting with the city clerk to talk
You mean
about that.
The official city clerk.
The official
not the
city clerk,
deputy.
correct.
So for people who don't know, that's John
John.
Kennedy, John E. Kennedy,
Senior.
Senior.
Yes.
JEK,
So-
senior.
So I will bring a report back on that, hopefully next meeting as well.
And I would recommend anybody who wants to pay TOTs on a monthly basis, that's a good idea, even though I don't pay that as a business. I do my sales tax that way. Instead of 4 payments, I do 12. It's a lot easier when things are slow. So, Casey, did you have anything you wanted to chime in? Or?
No.
No, you good? Okay, gotcha.
Can I add something to that?
Oh, please.
Not that I want to put Melissa on the spot, but I think anybody that has seen the documents that she's put together of late is just an absolute breath of fresh air in terms of the transparency and the way it's organized. It just, thank you.
Yes. For your forensic work. Anybody else? No? All right, moving on to future agenda items, which I could personally say in 6+ years on council is the smallest I've ever seen. So good job to everybody getting this cleaned up. Future agenda items are 1, master fee schedule review, and 2, parking revenue program. Anybody care to add anything?
Yeah, so let's start with making it official that we will reverse our T-bid
Yes.
funds redirect. To me, that's a consent agenda item.
Yes, yes, 100%.
All right. And since I was going to suggest we, on a consent agenda item, terminate the library expansion committee, but I've been basically told that we need to have one more meeting, so I'll hold off on that. The thing I think we should look at is ending the Castle daylighting couplet committee, and bring back, since the Castle Creek part of the project is at the point where it's moving forward, and the council will decide if we get funding, whether we want to go on with the project after CEQA. The couplet is trickier, and it wasn't as well received as the daylighting of Castle Creek. I think that one has to come back to council to see if we're really committed to actually the active transportation plan that Alta put forth. We're not going to get the funding, as Todd has said many times, just to go develop a couplet, which may or may not have more parking. We're just not going to get the funding for that. But we could potentially, through Caltrans grants, assuming they have money, get the funding for an active transportation project that could be within the city and/or beyond the city if we wanted to make it something that involves the rec district and the areas that are in the county and in the Forest Service. But it's the type of thing that Tom Hasselden's has already developed greenways for the rec district, and there's already a plan for bike trails and so forth in county and the Forest Service area to our east. But that committee is stalled on that item, and I think we have to talk about reigniting the Alta plan regarding active transportation. As a council, either want to move forward with that and have things altered, changed, or not, just don't bother. In other words, it would just be another plan that we paid a couple $100,000 for and did nothing with. But, we can talk about it. I just think we should take it out of that committee. I think that committee should.
Second.
Yeah. You second that one?
Yes.
Reconstitute active transportation committee.
Oh, that's another issue.
Oh, okay. I
No,
misunderstood you.
I want to take the couplet / Castle Creek daylighting committee, terminate it.
Yep.
And let Tom continue on with the Castle Creek daylighting section, but bring the couplet / active transportation plan that Alta developed?
Yeah.
And are we as a council going to move forward on that in some fashion? Part, wholly, whatever, to be determined. It's there. And it's very similar to the one that was done at this point 15 years ago in 2010. Sidewalks, getting sidewalks fixed, having the trail from here to the lake developed. By the way, that's a very expensive project. So the so-called Midtown Trail. And then if you want to have proper bike lanes and so forth in downtown, you have to probably go to a couplet to have the bike lanes and so forth, and then people who are interested in the couplet get it indirectly.
Is there an idea, does the active transportation plan, if it gets attached to, if we move the couplet into being with the active transportation plan and decoupling it from the Greenway, will the active transportation grants generally fund the actual, like construction of the streets themselves? Is that what we're?
That's what we're hoping
That's the
for.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
It's the bike lane.
Yeah, that will pay for the whole.
And the bump outs on the sidewalks and all these changes.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, to make this work, the couplet's a better configuration.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. Because just, yeah.
So yes, we need outside money.
So, agenda item, figure, you want to talk to me about it, call me.
Okay.
But that committee needs to end. I think we're far enough along the line.
I think so too.
Library, we'll talk about that later. Oh, and then Jeff and I were part, and I didn't really play too much of a role, on a committee to decide what to do with the snow plowing. And that completely stalled. And we're still at $12, which is a rate going back to 1968. So I'm just going to propose as a future agenda item that we ask those in that district if they're willing to pay an inflation-adjusted amount, flat fee, one time a year, to whatever that might be. It's probably in the $30 range now. So it'd be a constant dollars amount. You good with that?
Second.
John, are you good with that, since you're in that district?
I'm not allowed to talk on it, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay, never mind. So,
Even though half the businesses in town we plow for, but they don't have to pay as part of this. I'm just getting that out of my system.
so that committee is stalled, and I'm again saying since it was an ad hoc committee, it's just over. But there needs to be resolution at $12 a year for that service.
From every business.
Is outrageously low. And if it's a matter of asking people if they can afford $35 a year or whatever it ends up being, and it should be presented that this is inflation adjusted what the fee should be. So it's obviously nominally a rate increase, but in constant dollars, it's the same price. So I think that would be better than the zero increase at this point.
Anybody else?
So that's a simple solution to that.
Thank you, John. Okay, on that note, we will adjourn this meeting. See everybody on May 12th.